I've been carrying a gun on a daily basis for over 5 years now, and today I want to share with you some of the most important lessons that have taken me the better part of a decade to learn that I wish I would have known when I started. Let's jump right into it. The first lesson is one that I think everybody learns the hard way to one degree or another, but it is you are going to feel weird when you start carrying a gun. I think this is a completely natural thing, but it is a thing. The main two thought processes that'll kind of start to pop up that I see in people, including myself, are, does anyone else in public know that I have a gun on me, right? So you might be like kind of picking at your shirt and just nervous about the fact that, you know, you have this gun on you now. And then the other is your reptile, like primal brain, kind of like looking for a threat because now you have this weapon. I promise you, the world did not get any more dangerous just because you started carrying a gun. You could almost argue, especially if you're training, that it just got a little bit safer. So I think all of this is just natural. And when you start carrying, it'll probably take a couple weeks, if not months. I think it took me probably the first 3 months or so to kind of shake those feelings away. But carrying a gun will feel unnatural because you've lived your entire life without having a weapon on you on a consistent basis. So I think it's completely normal, but certainly something to note. The second lesson is that appendix carry is king. And if you don't know what appendix carry is, it's simply the position where you will carry your gun on the front of your belt line. So anywhere between that 11 to 1 o'clock area, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed. The reason appendix carry is best, in my opinion, is because it is the fastest position that you can draw from concealment from. It offers better concealment compared to other positions like hip carry or the other ones, and it is going to offer you the best retention out of pretty much any other practical carry position because it's on the front of you and it's very easy for you to kind of protect that area from being grabbed at. You know, that's already your no-no zone, even if there's not a gun there. So the next point I've got for you is that comfort matters. And for you to achieve, you know, quote unquote concealed carry luxury, you're gonna have to play with your setup a little bit. And this doesn't mean buy a bunch of different gear. I'm very like anti-consumer on that front. But what I will say is just a couple of different tweaks to really make your setup work around you rather than the other way around will just pay off immensely in the long run. I wish I had started tweaking with different things much earlier than I had, but the discomfort is going to be something that's going to turn a lot of people with a lower commitment level off. That might be a plus, more on that later, but still, you should make your setup for you. Okay, the next point I've got is that barrel length can actually help instead of hurt concealment. If you have a longer barrel, especially if you're carrying appendix, but even if it's on your hip, you're going to have much more material lower, which will prevent an effect called tip out. And tip out is where if you have a much shorter gun, say something like a Glock 43, 43X, the muzzle of it may be much closer to your belt line, which means that especially if you know you're kind of pudgy or you're tilting out a bit with your hips, the gun will want to tip forward and out a little bit. And we definitely don't want that because that's going to cause us to print, and then people actually will know that we're hiding a gun on us. So all that to say, if you're shopping around for a new carry gun, I would get something with a short grip, and then I would accept a longer barrel. So something like a Glock 48, I feel like is a fantastic compact option, and then something like a Glock 47 or 49. Not necessarily that brand, but around that size are good reference points. Okay, the fifth point I've got for you is that a quality holster and belt are both a good idea. Now, the reason I say this is because the holster and the belt are not only going to be the things that you use across pretty much all your other outfits, but also because they can make or break both the safety and the comfort of your entire setup. So what I look for in a holster at this point is pretty much a minimalist design. I've carried everything from, you know, the sidecar style holsters to, you know, basic setups. I have since come back to stuff like this. Now this is the Khartoum, I believe is how they pronounce it, the Khartoum 3 from Tennecore. And the reason I like it so much is because, like I said, it's very minimalist. It has amazing retention, very clicky as you put the gun in, which means that you don't have to crank this thing down super tight on the friction to make sure that the gun isn't going to fly out. And then the two other things I like about it is the fact that they come stock with discrete carry concepts clips. These are metal, very thin, so they don't add bulk to your belt line. And then of course their quote-unquote claw design, which is not actually a claw, but a camming bar. Now, for those of you who don't know, the claw, cam bar, all of these little devices on the side of a holster, they sit there to minimize printing by turning the gun into your body, right? So as we have more material this way, the holster is going to want to turn into my waistline, so however long the grip is, isn't going to be sticking out that much farther from my belt line. So that's what I've got for holsters. I do like Tennecore a lot. I'm not affiliated with any holster company, but their stuff is great. There are other good brands too. Now, as far as belts go, I run the Agonic EDB, which stands for Everyday Belt. I have worked with them in the past, but I'm no longer affiliated, at least professionally. So I can speak very frankly about this belt. And frankly, it's the same things I would say as when I was working with them. This belt rocks. I really like how the band strikes a good balance between structure and stretch. And then the patent pending part of this is the placard, right? So they have a panel of Tigris, whatever you want to call it, that you will put your holster clips or whatever other tools you're carrying on here, which means that the clips are going to hide behind the actual belt band. It's a trim to fit belt, so you don't have to, guess a size and get it wrong. You can cut it exactly to your size. And again, here's how the holster would sit, just like that, right? So boom, and then now you've got that hiding. And the belt is made up of a bunch of nylon 1-inch slots for this very unique buckle design to slip into. So whether it's Thanksgiving season or you're cutting for the summer, this belt should fit you if you give yourself enough slots. This one, you can see it's got some bend to it. I've had this thing for 18 months and it has been worn pretty much every day since I have this one. So it's held up incredibly well. And I have nothing bad to say about this belt. It is awesome and worth every penny. Okay, and my final 3 points are somewhat hot takes. And the first of the hot takes is that dressing like a gray man is not actually concealed carry. And what do I mean by gray man? The whole original idea of the gray man was to genuinely blend in with society. But this term, as it's kind of been played out throughout tactical culture, if you want to call it that, has morphed into this amalgamation of molly weave and cargo pants and ranger green and flat dark earth and all of these other things that make you look like an off-duty cop. And I don't know about you, but that's not what I want to look like. I want to look like a normal person. I want to dress well. And again, this is a bit of the pot calling the kettle black, because if you've seen my other videos, if you know me in person, you've seen the way I dress at times. I'm trying to change this too. Now, if you're super into gun culture and you've got some like 2A advocacy or gun brand shirts, whatever, that's fine. I'm not shitting on you for that. It's up to you however you want to dress. I'm not here to parent you. But if you want to truly blend in with society, a sweater vest would do you much more good than whatever tactical line of clothing is out there. The next point I have for you is that good concealed carry classes actually can be helpful. We have 27 constitutional carry states now. I don't think that's enough. I think that number should be 50, but the number is growing regardless. And while I do not think that there should be any sort of permit scheme or permission slip that you get from the government in order to be able to carry a gun, what I do think is that it's very important for anyone who decides to carry a gun to understand the basic laws around use of force, the importance of de-escalation, and the laws that apply to them when they carry a gun. One thing that concealed carry courses typically do, if they're taught well, is communicate all of these basic points. Concealed carry classes get a lot of shit because they are not good shooting classes. Very few concealed carry instructors are going to actually teach you how to shoot well, partly because it's hard to take someone from zero to hero in one day as a shooter, but especially because these instructors, they're typically getting certified not to teach people how to shoot well, but they're getting certified to teach people stuff like use of force policies and how to communicate state laws to the students. So I think this is very important information to understand. Now, because we have so many states that are constitutional carry now, most people, including myself, are not getting concealed carry permits. So that leaves a gap. I'm very excited to talk in the future about how we plan to address that. All right, and my final point, this is probably the hottest take of the video, is that not everybody should carry a gun. Let me be clear. Do I think every adult has the right to carry a gun, arm themselves, and defend themselves? Absolutely. Yes, it's an inherent human right. The Constitution simply guarantees and protects that, but it exists with or without that piece of paper. Now, everybody has that right, but I need you to come closer. Be honest with me. Do you want everyone you know to be carrying a gun? The answer is probably no, unless everybody you know is perfect, sane, sober, moral, all of those things. When I first started carrying, I was in this phase where I wanted to encourage every single person I knew to, start carrying a gun. And frankly, that was the wrong approach because not everybody wants to do it. And we shouldn't force people or push people into doing something that's going to frankly add a lot of extra responsibility and commitment into their lives. Like if someone tells you they're not good enough to carry a gun, believe them. Bottom line is carrying a gun every day adds extra responsibility. The onus is on you to always be the person who's de-escalating and using any form of violence, not just lethal force, as a last resort because conflicts can escalate so quickly now that you do have a weapon. So if you're not willing to put the time in to train, be competent with the tool, and also learn how to avoid using it as much as possible, you probably shouldn't be carrying a gun on a regular basis. Does that make me seem like an elitist? Maybe, but my opinion doesn't affect you at all. I still respect the rights of everyone else to arm themselves as they see fit. I'm simply not going to encourage low commitment individuals to take on this extra responsibility. All right, and these have been the biggest things that I've learned since I started concealed carrying. I've only been doing this for 5 or so years. My opinions will likely change drastically over the next several years. I know this video was a little controversial, so I'm sure the comments will be super tame. Be sure to leave something productive down there. Let people know in the comment section what your favorite tip has been since you started carrying. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video made you a better marksman.